criticism, feedback to make this podcast better for your enjoyment.
All right. And our next co-host is Tavana. Would you like to say something to the listeners?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. We hope to have another engaging conversation that you will enjoy. So be in tune and communicate with us via the chat.
And finally, we have Miss Shar. I think she's having some technical difficulties. So would you like to speak to the
Oh no,
listeners?
she's here. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome back.
All right. We will begin. Our first caller tonight is Miss Pam. How are you doing, ma'am?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. And where are you calling from? Just to inform our listeners.
From Columbia, South Carolina.
Okay. Well, welcome. And we hope you enjoy. And we're definitely delighted to have you here. And we're going to just have you jump right in. Tell me, are there any questions? I think a lot of times people question like, why the heck would he do that? What was he thinking about, right? What are some questions that you may have for the guys, not just us, but for men in general?
If I were to think of something off the top of my head, I would say what makes it so hard for some men to honestly communicate to women how they are feeling.
Good question. Let me make sure I'm getting this correct. You said, why is it hard for some men to communicate how they're feeling, right?
Yes.
Now, this is a good question. We kind of touched on this on last week. Do you think that it is hard for them, or do you think they're just reserved with who they share information with, or who they open up?
That would probably be a better question for the men.
Damon, what do you have to say about this?
Said, why is it hard for us to express our feelings? Pretty much.
Or to honestly express how you're feeling. I didn't have a narrowed enough question, so my question might be kind of broad, but it's basically, why is it hard for some men to honestly communicate with women how they are feeling?
I think in some cases,
One second.
Everybody, you're not speaking.
When you're not speaking, mute your phone.
I think we're afraid of the reaction that we might get from y'all. We might be afraid we're gonna hurt y'all feelings. In some cases, that's a real tough one. But that's the only thing I can really think of. We're afraid we're gonna hurt your feelings. Are we afraid our answer might cause us to lose y'all?
Let me join in right quick, Damon. Can you mute yours? All right.
I had a question, well, a probing question for that response that Damon had.
Go ahead, fire.
Okay, so Damon, I think that's an excellent point that you made. I think that it is more than likely rooted in a lot of fears. So, is there something that can be done by the female to calm that fear, to make it a little more comfortable?
Oh, not really, because even like women be like anybody, not even a man or woman be like, oh, you can tell me the truth. Nah. That's when a man is most likely gonna lie. When a person, oh, you can go tell me the truth. It'll be okay. No, it ain't. Most cases, that truth can really hurt. So that's why the communication, with that communication, that um, we tend to sugarcoat it. I guess you might call it a lie, but it's more sugarcoating. But I guess you can call it a lie.
Well, the cliche is that the truth hurts. Um, so, do you think it's better to have a pretty lie than an ugly truth?
No, I always disagree with that. I said, give me that ugly truth. I take that ugly truth over a pretty lie any day.
But you wouldn't be willing to give that.
Sometimes. Sometimes.
All right, I want to chime in for a second. A couple of things that stood out to me. Pam, you've said why, like it's a challenge for them to be honest with expressing their feelings, right? So are you making an assumption that they're not being honest when they tell you how they feel? Or is this based on something anecdotal? Was there an instance where a guy said one thing and then later you found out he felt differently? Or he never opened up and told you how he felt? I want a little clarity before I give an explanation. I want to try to see if it's something that I can relate to personally, or just try to give some understanding from a male's perspective. So tell me where this is coming from when you say being honest about their feelings.
Not rooted in a specific situation per se for me, but I'm pretty sure over the years I've experienced a combination of a couple of what you just said. I've experienced where, someone wasn't honest about their feelings in regards to me. It was something that I kind of found out on the back end. And then I've had other experiences also where, it it was just lying for the sake of lying. I don't know. I didn't have a narrowed exact scenario when I posed the question.
Okay, thank you for that. Give me for a second. I want to try to. Can you mute it for a second, Pam?
Sure.
Oh, I can do it. I'm sorry. I just realized I can do it on my end. So, if I'm getting this correct, and I understand exactly what you're saying, and I think that in my younger days, I've been guilty of that, right? And I think and I'm talking about as a teenager, young, like you like a girl, you think she likes you, right? And you know how it is when you're that teenage love. I always tell anybody that's the best in the world because it's like you like that person for them, right? Because we have nothing to give each other but time. Talking on the phone, laid back, feet up on the wall, hiding under covers. But everybody's afraid to be the first one to say I love you. That is what comes to mind when I think about your question. It's like I like her, I think she likes me, and when you get off the phone at night, it's good night, but it's like something happens. Was it after the first tongue kiss? Was it after the first gift exchange? Something happens with now you're getting off the phone saying I love you, right? And I think that can come from people in general. And a lot of instances with men, I think there's a little skepticism, and they may show a little hesitancy or resistance until they're sure, like what's going on. In my opinion, a lot of women like to be in love. A lot of women like that feeling. They like to be loved, right? Some guys that I have spoken to, they don't want to be played, right? So they want to make sure that everything is exclusive before they start saying, yeah, this is my girl. They start claiming her, or before they go public with her, posing pictures on social media. taking her around the family. They want to make sure everything is exclusive and this person is trustworthy. This is the one. And then they'll do that. But as far as sharing, we touched on this last week, and hopefully when you get some free time, you can listen to last week's episode. As far as sharing confidential information, I think that has to be earned, beyond how the guy feels, just sharing information, like things that he's dealing with, things that he's going through. He has to develop that trust. And sometimes men will be around women and hear them talk to friends, talk about friends, or disclose information about their own friends. So the guy might be like, hey, she could talk about my personal information, my personal business. And that's just my feelings. But I'll open it up if you have some additional questions.
Well, I personally, I think that in terms of Pam's question was, and I don't think we really kind of hit it yet. It's what causes. I think Tate might have touched it a little bit. What causes the just not being able to be honest about your feelings? So if a man is sad, that you cannot come to your partner and say, I am sad. If he is upset, you don't come to your partner and say, I am upset. If you are hurt, if you are happy, if you are just, what is the issue with being able to express your true feelings to your partner? What is the issue with that? So if you're upset, if you're sad about something, your partner asks, what's wrong? And you say nothing. What was that hesitation if there was actually something wrong? Pam, did that fall in line with what you were asking?
A little bit. It could include that. I think when you started, I had another follow-up question too to try to get a little more specific toward the men. I think I would ask what specific scenarios, what specific subjects do you feel like you would tell a woman the truth versus, well, what specific situations would you tell the ugly truth to a woman, and what specific situations would you tell the pretty lie to them? Like, are there specific subjects that you would want to tell her the truth, no matter if it hurts her feelings or not, or specific subjects where you would withhold telling her the truth because you don't want to hurt her feelings?
Good question.
I'll begin, Damon, and you can follow up. Personally, my rule of thumb is I try to apply some logic and reasoning, right? If it is a problem, I share with the person that can help solve the problem. If you don't have a solution, I'm just telling you to be telling you, right? When we talk about an ugly truth, I try to avoid situations based on the person's relationship. Like if I'm dating someone, I kind of watch what I say when it comes to family members, right? Because some people have these weird, strong family bonds. Like they have like an egocentric disorder where they can bash and talk about everybody else's family and situation, but you better not say anything about their crackhead cousin or the female cousin with 9 boyfriends in 1 year. Like, so you kind of get a feel for what topics are off limits, right? So when it comes to things like that, you kind of hold it in. If it's a situation where you can handle something yourself and you don't want to like cause some future drama, I would withhold that information. When I'm sharing personally some ugly truths, if I experience betrayal, if I experience I've had a friend that borrowed money, didn't repay me, right? I would share that with my significant other. Like, yeah, because when you're with someone, we all have patterns, right? And as a female, you might be like, dog, you ain't talked to your boy in a little minute. Yeah, man, I let him borrow such and such. He never paid me back. Or this happened. Or I could have done something wrong to a person, right? I would share something like that, not to take sides, but just to let you know what's going on, because we may make amends and become friends later, and I don't want you disliking that person. So especially if it's something that happened within my family, I don't want to cause any tension with my family and my significant other, because nobody wins when the family feuds. And I don't want somebody hating a cousin of mine or vice versa, because my children are involved in this, when we talk about a situation like that. And I'm hoping I'm not going off on a tangent too far, but just when you talked about like when would you share and when will you not? That's just from my personal experiences. Damon?
Question is, when will we say share an ugly truth? Am I correct? Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes. Sorry. Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
when? Boy. Shit. Truthfully, hardly ever. When the fact, like, if I know pretty much, all right, you got me, so I might as well confess, More like a confession, like you already got me, so no need for me to lie. You got it now. But yeah, I hate those ugly truths. I ain't gonna lie. I try to avoid them at all costs.
So, do you think that you can have a open, honest, transparent conversation or relationship that way? Tank?
Oh, sorry. Oh, I think I spoke about that last week. I think I said last week. That's probably one of my most difficult subject areas in my past relationships is those tough conversations. It's hard for me. So I don't know. I'm working on that because those hard truths are a very hard thing for me. It hurts to hear them. I know they do. So I try to avoid them. To be honest.
I think that sometimes we have to give our significant other a little more credit, um, and not assume, okay, this is going to hurt them, or this is going to, or that they can't take it. They say they can, but I don't think they can. Well, you should let them make that decision. Like if they ask for the truth, why not give it to them? Why not, you know, why continue to make that decision for them if they've asked for it?
Can I go on this one? Um, from personal experience, I think we can address this, right? Some women have their own version of the truth. And that causes a problem where they think that a man is not communicating. I've been approached several times um, in different situations where um, someone's asked me for the truth. I told them the truth, and their response is, "You don't have to lie," right? Just over and over and over. So they aren't asking for a truth. They're just asking a question for validation with something that they already think. Now, when we talk about ugly truths, I mean, we have to kind of be specific because there are different factors that contribute to different things, right? Um, like what Tank said, when I was young, teenage young, in a relationship, I was young. I wasn't. I didn't think I was cheating because I spoke to other women, right? But my girlfriend at the time viewed it as cheating. for me, I felt like sex was cheating. So if I wasn't having sex with a person, I was not cheating. That's how I looked at it. But she felt like it was. So then I found myself lying about communicating with people or denying it, like Damon alluded to earlier, just to protect her feelings. And I did not stop communicating with the people because I knew nothing was going on, and I felt the communication was harmless. So I kept communicating, but I lied about it to her, like, oh no, I didn't talk to her, or I don't know the last time I spoke to her, et cetera, things like that. But anything else, I love communicating. Of course, hence we start the podcast. I love talking. Anybody that knows me, they know we can get on the phone and talk, But I would love to be with that person that I can talk about any and everything with, right? But not have it brought up again, man. That's something that men hate. Don't ask me to communicate, or we just putting something behind, and then every opportunity you get, you throw it up in a guy's face. A lot of men, they dislike things like that. Go ahead, Damon. Unless he might be busy. Tavana, Shar, do you all have any questions for us tonight?
I think when you're in the
No
vein
probing
of
questions at this time.
communication, I think when you're in the vein of communication, I think for me anyway, even in this um, setting, I don't think that we have really gotten some honest answers. Um, not to say that we didn't, but not to say that there was an answer that we were looking for, but I don't personally, I didn't get any more clarity than what I had before as to the why. I mean, I think Tank again hit on it a little bit, the fear, but beyond that, and then I think I asked if there was anything that someone could do to take that fear away so that the honesty was better, and he said no. So how do you get to a point where you can have open, honest conversations that do not apply to feelings, and it's just okay, like whatever you're feeling, let that be okay?
Okay, let me go. All right. Kind of like what Cole said. If you ask me a question, right? We have a question, dialogue. I'm honest about it. Okay, I understand it hurts your feelings. Okay, let's talk about it. But don't bring it up every time you get mad. You bring that. It could be something from 10 years ago, 20 years ago. We done seen the 7 C's since that one incident happened 20 years ago. Now you get mad again. You bring it back up. Oh, but you did this that one time. That was 20 years ago. Why you bring it back up? Because you're mad about something else. You use that as fuel to get you more mad. So that's why we tend to hold back or be dishonest about certain things.
So would that go into a lack of forgiveness?
Yeah, I would say so. Because if you forgive me, you shouldn't keep using that against me any chance you get.
Agreed. And is it for you that when that gets thrown back up in your face, it gives you the sense or the thought that, man, I probably should have just never even said nothing?
Correct.
Okay.
On the flip side, you can't determine how long it takes for a person to get over a situation either. So, but at the same time, you can't keep using that against me at the same time.
Absolutely. To make it a double-edged sword. That makes sense. So I have a question. Have you guys ever experienced a time where you had a successful encounter with your honesty?
I'll go first on this one. No is my answer. Um, Never, ever, ever let go. And that is what I think some men, when men talk about things, right? We might not have the large chats, but just barbershop talk, right? And we joke about things like that. Or when we're riding together to a game, right? These are topics, and we mutually agree that some things are just better left unsaid because women say they want to know, but they really don't. Or when you tell them these things and they say, okay, we're going to move forward XYZ, they just bring it right back up, right? And that defeats the entire purpose. Like, if you're not over it or you're going to keep bringing this up, why are we even trying to be together? Why are we trying to move forward? Because if it's something that you cannot get past, or you're going to continue bringing it up, let's just go ahead and part ways because not healthy. And like Damon said, I don't feel like 3, 4 years later, because once we say we've moved past something and, we're back dating and having a good time, right? We could be on a vacation and you drive through a certain town. Oh, that's where that B lives right there. Or you're probably going to such, such, such. Now you just set the entire relationship back 2 years or whenever that incident occurred. So if you cannot move past it, don't even try to act like you can, because it is so frustrating. And then men will get to the point where it's like, you know what, man, I can't keep putting up with this. Or you force them to become dishonest because they see what the results of honesty will bring. And that's my time.
Tank, did you have a response for that?
Um, no, but I got another example though. Where he said like truth hurts, and truth really does hurt because I was in the military. In 2 instances, I could have lied and got away with. I decided, oh, I'm gonna be honest about the situation, and got in trouble both times. So why be honest when you can lie and get away with it? In some cases,
I think that might be just more of a personal integrity question, like, what you deem to feel about your level of integrity and honesty, whether or not you want to, like you said, lie and get away with it or tell the truth and quote unquote get in trouble. Um, so I think that's something that has to be figured out maybe in the beginning of a relationship in order to establish that level of honesty and transparency and trust, so that there is a level of comfort where both parties can share their feelings openly and honestly.
Now, I want to chime in with an unpopular opinion, right? Now, I notice a lot of women, they like honesty, they like transparency, they want all the secrets, they want to know everything, but women don't do the same. Like, like they ask for it, but y'all keep some major, major secrets, even from your quote unquote best friends. Some of you will say things, but a lot of women over time, it's like, oh, well, I don't let them know everything. And I don't know why. Well, I've spoken to a lot of female friends, and it's like two main causes. One, they've been burnt by distrust. They had a friend, we were so cool, blah blah blah. She told, right? The other thing that I've noticed, as I got older is women have identities within their cliques, and they're supposed to be the good one. They're supposed to be the classy one. They're supposed to be the one that would never do this. They're supposed to be the church girl or whatever identity they have within their clique. And if it goes against that, then they withhold that information. And I mean, we're kid friendly. I'm just giving an example with, like I said, I have close friends that I just talk to, just like homeboys. And one was like, she shared an example of having sex during her cycle. And, oh no, my friends could never know I've done something like that because they know I'm not that type of person. And I'm like, but you just said that you did it. So you are that type of person. Yeah, but I could never say that around my girls because XYZ. So women are dishonest, right? And don't disclose everything. But why do they always want all of the tea, but they withhold some tea? That's my time.
Pam or Shari, I want to chime in on that one.
Ooh, why do we want all of the tea, but we don't want to give any of the tea? I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's more or less a gender thing. I think that could go across the board and be, the situation for men as well. You don't tell your friends or your family every single thing. I know for me, I think with my friend groups, I compartmentalize who needs to know what, because I don't act the same way with every group of people that I hang around. So naturally I wouldn't have discussions or conversations about certain subjects with certain groups if I'm not that way with them, or if we don't normally discuss those kinds of topics together.
Okay, Shar, do you have a answer for that one? Shar might be out. I'll answer that. I think with that particular question, Koshan, I don't think that is a gender specific thing. I think as human beings, we self-preserve, and if you think something is going to be detrimental to you, you will do whatever it takes to alleviate that detriment. So therefore, if it's with your significant other or with a friend, if you think that there's going to be a negative outcome, you will try to alter the outcome. And so, again, that gets into a people thing. And I think a person has to really be able to have the ability to live in their authenticity and their truth, to be able to honestly communicate how they're feeling, what they're thinking, what they do, what they won't do, without any care for how someone else is going to perceive it or take it or deal with it. Because once you get to that point, then you can have those authentic, real, open, honest, transparent conversations. But as long as you live in the fear of the consequence, I don't think people in general are going to be able to do that.
Well, I said women because women are the ones making the request. I agree that, people withhold certain information, but I'm not calling anybody a hypocrite, just the hypocrisy of women wanting all this communication, people to be open and just tell me everything and say how you feel, give me all of your emotions, tell me when you're happy, tell me when you're sad, tell me how your day went. You know, they request a lot of information. That is what I was saying about some women. But I do agree with you both that as far as, knowing what to say around who and what you should withhold is not gender specific. I agree with that.
And I think another reason women can do it, and sometimes vice versa, I think it goes back to the kind of can dish it but can't take it. You know what I mean? You want all the information, but then if somebody gives you all the information, now your feelings hurt. So it's like I can dish it but I can't take it. So, or I want it but I can't handle it. So it's that weird complex that goes into that part of it. So I think that has a lot to do with it. You want certain things, but you don't want to give it.
That's a good explanation. You brought a lot of clarity. Now, as we move into the next segment, right? We have a lot of topics for discussion, and um, one of the questions that was brought to us was dealing with, um, the effects, and Damon, you can kind of talk about this too, of our life experiences, childhood, and how it molds young boys into the men that they are. And another question. So I actually had a list of questions. Not. I don't want to go off on a tangent, but I thought this was a good question that was brought to me, and the person asked, and I really wanted to address it. It was something dealing with, what is the viewpoint on toxic masculinity, right? And because I think that ties into our upbringing, right? And the way we communicate as men, um, our upbringing. Someone actually challenged me about my response. They listened to the podcast last week. They challenged me about my response, and I said how, my mom was the only girl, so I had a bunch of like uncles. They didn't allow that, stop that crying stuff, hold your shoulders back, hold your head up, put some bass in your voice, like everything about them. How they say they're all man, right? And then my dad had one sister, so I grew up around a lot of uncles. Work at the railroad. He did everything outside. You have to know how to chop wood, mow the lawn, fix cars, and I always questioned, which I joke about it now because the pandemic had you ladies on this crazy thing with all these talking points, and everybody was jumping on board. So between 2019 and 22-23, that 3 to 4 year span, I think we really abused the whole toxic masculinity, the gaslighting, and the narcissist terms, right? So I want to ask you ladies, um, give me some examples of what you consider to be toxic masculinity. I'm going to give you a second to think about it. And I would like to begin with our guest, Pam. We're going to give you a little time. I'm ad-libbing right now. Just think about toxic masculinity and what it looks like to you. And it should vary, of course, and especially like, women from different areas, they have different expectations. What is toxic and what is just considered manly? Do you all even believe in having gender roles? Like men should do this. Um, as a woman, I don't feel I should do this. Or I don't want to have to do X, Y, Z. And when does the masculinity become toxic? Now, Pam, you should have had enough time. And from Pam, we want to get to Ronald's response. And if Shar is available, we can get her response also. And even our live listeners, if you guys want to chime in, you can hit the message tab and type your questions or type some responses too. We'd like for you to interact with us. But Pam, please, what is toxic masculinity?
What is toxic masculinity?
I don't know that I've ever dealt with toxic masculinity, so I have to pass that question for now. And maybe when I hear some responses, maybe I have dealt with something like that, and then I can share. But you did also ask, what are some? Do we believe in gender roles, or if there are some things that you definitely think women should do or men should do? Um, I think that question depends on, your situation, your household, your relationship, etc. I know for me in my household, I I think my husband is much better suited for the outside stuff than I am. But I'm a little selfish because I also still want help inside the house. So, but I think, like, outdoor chores in my world are more suited for the man versus the woman. Cutting grass, doing trash, taking out, moving big things, fixing things, changing bulbs. Those are things to me that I wouldn't want to do as a female, but I am the primary person when it comes to a lot more things homemaking wise, in the kitchen, shopping, cooking, that sort of thing. That's for my house, of course.
Thank you for that response, and thank you for that, Tavana.
So toxic masculinity, as it is defined, has everything to do with what you tied it into, these gender norms that um, tend to become so rigid that it appears or comes off as quote unquote toxic. Because toxic is another one of those overused words that people um, have done. So I think it's people define toxic masculinity anytime a man seems to overstep um, what a woman's role is, or to say that this is not acceptable because they're a woman, um, avoiding um, certain things with women because they are women. I think you get into all of that kind of stuff. It does have a lot to do with the gender roles. So I think I don't think I've ever, again, like Pam said, I don't think I've ever dealt with quote unquote toxic masculinity. I think gender roles, in terms of how I view them, I really do not like the societal norms that are placed on us. Because again, those are just taught behaviors that we've been taught over the years. I think you should definitely tailor them to your household, what you do. Now, me specifically, I think what has happened, especially in the Black community, is that unfortunately the breakdown of the family has changed so much in the past two generations. So it doesn't look the same. A lot of our great grandmothers and grandmothers did not work. They stayed home. They took care of the house. The man went out, made the money, brought it back, and that was kind of it. But our mothers went to college. Our mothers got good jobs, sent us to college. We have good jobs. So the dynamic and the paradigm of what the family looks like has changed. So those gender roles have changed. I don't think our grandmothers and great grandmothers were outside cutting grass, right? Because they were in the house baking pies and cakes and cooking dinner and washing clothes. So, but now, a lot more single parent households are coming about. Women have had to take on a much more masculine role at times because of there not being a male in the picture. And so when a male does come into the picture, it is hard for them to kind of revert backwards. So I think when you're talking about this, is a very layered thing. So you have to figure out what works for you in your household.
Good answer. Good answer.
Thank you, sugar.
I got. Can I chime in on that one?
Please do.
They need to come up with another word because most cases it ain't toxic masculinity. It's more of um, male emasculation. But y'all, not y'all, nah. Some people try to make it look like toxic masculinity because he's talking about the single mothers. In a lot of cases, that's a generational thing. So some single women, some I'm using some, um, it's embedded in their head from generations before them. You don't need a man. You don't need a man. You don't need a man. So when a man comes along, you don't know what a man's supposed to do because you think you're supposed to still be doing everything. So when the man tries to do something, you overstepping your boundaries, and then it's a clash. Like Coach Sean asked, we said what a man is or what a man's supposed to be. Coach Sean, was that question you asked?
I asked about. Mute yours right quick, Damon. I'll do it. I asked about as far as these gender roles. Do we think that roles exist, and where do we draw the line between just toxic masculinity and what makes these actions toxic? Like, why do you label it as being toxic? I've been told, oh, that's toxic, oh, X, Y, Z, and I kind of felt like we've been emasculating black men lately, and I hate that our black women, in my opinion, some of them have fallen for it, right? And you think about what's accepted. It's like we glorify what makes others feel safe, because wearing a suit doesn't make a black man smarter, but what it does, it makes people feel more safe around that black man, because he's less likely to be belligerent, less likely to engage in fights, less likely to be doing some things that they feel a person with athletic gear and a baseball cap would engage in, right? So I don't have a problem with dressing, or wanting to see a person dressed up. But when we get it to the point where we want to force our black men to look a certain way, to sit a certain way, to talk a certain way, and I've seen men that change the way they speak, and it actually happened to me. I'm gonna share a personal experience. When I was working a few years ago, I worked up at Clemson, and the cohort that I worked with, I was the only male. So this was in 2018-19, during the whole Me Too movement, right? And it got to the point where I just couldn't take it anymore, where everything I did was scrutinized. I was told one day that I over postured, and I was like, "What is over posturing? I've never heard that term, or at least had it been accused of doing it." And I was told that I sat with my legs wide open, and I was over posturing. And like when I'm around others, I was imposing. So I'm 6'3". At the time, I was like 275. I'm down to 240, y'all. So y'all can clap for that. Wait a minute. Let me do that again. And it's like, I'm sorry, I can't control my size, right? And again, I was brought up, you hold your head up, you hold your shoulders back to protect your posture, never thinking I'd be accused of over posturing. And as far as me sitting with my legs open, I was taught that's how men sit. Women cross their legs because, women wore dresses and skirts, etc. And men just sat relaxed. Not saying you have to have your legs spread wide open, but I found myself having to be conscious of so many things. And when I was in different spaces, being the only male, I always spoke last during discussions and open discussions. I didn't want to talk over anyone. I had to make sure I'm not interrupting anyone. And then it got to the point where everything that I was taught in my life about things that men should do is now being scrutinized and viewed as wrong. With my voice, I had to speak softer. I had to wait. I had to just smile with others. And it's like so many things being scrutinized and that people pay attention to, just my facial expressions. And I'm like, well, with my eyebrows, that's when I'm in deep thought. I'm not angry. I'm not mad at anything, but, so many subtle things people perceive as being overbearing or, like we said, being toxic. One second. I don't know if I lost you, you lost me. Can you all still hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. But, yeah, again, I feel like that term, I feel like the term itself, was abused. And like I said, we talk about emasculating a lot of men and the things that are kind of like glorified and the things that are demonized, all this rah-rah stuff. And it's like, not saying because you've always done something that makes it right, but certain acts and actions that men do and men interact with is just normal for us. And I don't think it should be changed because someone else feels uncomfortable when we're doing it around one another, if that makes sense. And just examples like Damon and I, we get together, we'll work out, we'll hit the gym, right? We'll push one another. If he's working and I feel like, hey, he can get another set in, I'm hyping him up. Come on, big, come on, don't quit. Come on, let's go. Get one more. Give me one more. That's the way we motivate one another, right? He'll do the same to me. And some people feels like, it doesn't take all that, right? Well, it doesn't take all that for you. You're not in this space. It's not what you do. In the same way you want us to respect your views and opinions, you need to learn to respect ours and our actions. And that's just, how I feel about the whole thing. And I do believe in showing people respect in instances, but we have to draw a line with these movements, because if we change our culture to accommodate a certain group of people, aren't they toxic and controlling? And trying to suppress others the same way they're, saying that they're being suppressed. But I don't want to go too far from a different topic. I'll let somebody else have the floor. Go ahead, Pam.
Okay, I think the question was posed about toxic masculinity. I feel when someone uses the term toxic, it's for any person, whether it's male or female. I feel like it's a lot of aggressive behavior shown consistently, like weekly. Like if that is all your relationship is based on, then I would identify that as a toxic relationship. Now, if I had to define a toxic man, and I'm going to speak from my experience with my ex-husband, he felt like he was in charge of everything. Like everything had to be his way or no way. It's almost like, I don't have an opinion. Like my opinion didn't matter because I was, quote unquote, a woman to him. So for me, if you're constantly being fed this negativity, this aggression, this belligerent language every single day, then yes, I would consider that to be a toxic, trait in this particular person. Now, do women? Yes, we have toxic traits as well. I think men identify those traits as nagging. Like when you're asking I think you guys were speaking earlier about don't ask me the same question over and over again. Something that happened from 10 years ago, you need to let it go. I feel like if a woman is constantly bringing up, old arguments, then I would classify her as a toxic woman. Now, I think you also asked me the question, do I believe in gender roles? I'm going to say no. I feel like if you're good at something, then you should do it. Like for me, I don't mind cutting the grass if I know how to do it. I don't mind if I knew how to change oil. I don't think that only a man should be able to change the oil and vice versa. So if a man knows how to cook, if he's a better cook, let him cook. I don't feel like we should just label humans because we're all human. We all need to eventually know how to take care of ourselves. So when they put these gender roles on certain relationships, in my opinion, I feel like it causes a strain, especially if there's a lack of communication. Like if you're getting with someone and he has this certain expectation for you, and you guys are not willing to meet halfway, then your relationship is probably not going to prosper. Now, I have a follow-up question, Coach Sean. I think you mentioned about your time when you were at Clemson and you were the only male in the class, and someone mentioned to you about posture. Now, do you feel that played a part because you were just a black male, the only male, or because you were around a bunch of like white women, black women? Why do you think that's so?
All right, I'll
Can
respond.
you hear?
Yes, I can hear you. It was not about just me being a black male because, and I spoke about this to the university. We were in a cohort, and of course we took a lot of general education courses, but to earn our PhDs, we had to take specific courses. So at this time, we did not have anyone in science education. So we're getting all of the candidates from all over. And what I liked at Clemson was they allowed the PhD candidates to sit in on the interview process along with other tenured professors. And one of the finalists, and it's hard because if someone qualifies to work as a professor at Clemson, they're probably already at a major, R1 institution that specializes in research. So getting someone to leave to come to the university is hard in itself. And when we found the candidate, I thought he was a great candidate. The young ladies in my cohort, along with two of the professors, said this exact same thing. They didn't want to hire him. I was like, wow, what happened? What did I miss? They said he over postured, and it's like he has this aura of arrogance with him. And I'm like, the guy's a PhD in whatever concentration of science. And, a lot of smart people think they're know-it-alls, right? But I didn't get arrogance from the guy. And they talked the same thing, said he over-postured in the way he sat. And that stood out to me. I was upset because if we didn't hire someone, that would delay our graduation. And I'm like, you all don't even care about that. It's like, you're empowered right now. And I get it that some women may have felt like they've been suppressed and oppressed. And when they get into a position of power, it's like, I'm going to exert my authority. I want to exert the power that I have. But I felt like that wasn't the time to do it. And it could be detrimental. And that was really alarming and eye-opening to me. And I'm sure this guy's wondering, like, why did he not get hired? And to communicate with someone, I don't know what they told him, but if that was me and to find out that I didn't get a job because I sat upright with my legs open, I mean, that's a bit absurd. And again, it wasn't just because I was, a black male. I think a lot of people really feel this way. And if you look at the timing of it all, every college, I'm actually registered, and I get emails weekly. Every college or university in the United States created positions for diversity, inclusion, and I forgot the other term. This is D, E, and I, but basically for diversity and inclusion, right? And it was a part of a movement. I mean, I feel like it is something that's needed. I feel like it's something that is needed, but we need to have a limit to it. I want to let you all know we're going to resume this because each session is limited to 2 hours. And of course, we spend an hour like just getting ourselves together, getting warmed up. So if this session ends, you should be able to click on the link again, and we can resume if that's something that you all would like to do. We're approaching our 7 p.m. mark. But, Shar, I hope I answered your question. But if you have a follow-up question, go ahead.
I will put it in the parking lot for next week.
Well, we're having about 2 minutes left for this session. I want to thank you all. I want to thank you all for joining us. And again, please share. Tell a friend is the rule. Just tell a friend and have your friend tell a friend. And we will resume on next week where we can continue our series on, male communication. And again, you have some really great questions, and I would love to thank you all for joining us. And any parting words, anyone?
Just practice communicating.
Thanks for having me. It was
Just practice
fun.
communicating. Ladies and gentlemen.
Go ahead, Pam. What were you saying?
I said thanks for having me. It was fun.